KUAM News Headlines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust, serving Micronesia since 1938. Matson and the Adahi Tano Program. Cars Plus, home of Guam's first and only lifetime limited powertrain warranty. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it. And King's Restaurants, always open, always local, and serving up favorites for over 40 years.
Ahead on Primetime, Guam's only public hospital is working hard to accommodate non-COVID and COVID patients. This as the number of positive cases continues to rise. Plus, the Lieutenant Governor of Guam details his battle with the coronavirus. And despite a stay-at-home order, a peaceful protest encouraging social distancing over social isolation is held in Tumon.
Off today, everybody. Good evening. As of news time, we continue to wait for the latest numbers to be released from the Joint Information Center. At this point, all we know is Guam's COVID case count remains at 907, with more than 400 active cases, and hospitalizations are more than 20. Meanwhile, there is another positive case to report out of the Guam legislature. The employee remains on home isolation and was last in the Guam Congress building on August 12th. The day before it was closed following another employee that tested positive. This would bring the total number of confirmed cases out of the legislature to 3. As reported, Senator Will Castro previously came forward announcing that he had been infected with the virus. According to a media release, Public Health has provided a timeline on procedures for reopening the Congress building. The earliest possible date is this Thursday. That is the day the Speaker has called her colleagues into session to address legislation to cancel this Saturday's primary election. The Guam International Airport Authority also announcing today that a second office employee is tested positive for COVID. The first confirmed case was reported on August 13th. Airport Executive Manager John Kanata says they continue to effectuate measures to ensure the protection of the community by limiting entry into the terminal exclusively to airport authorized employees, passengers, and those providing airport essential services. 3 days left under PCOR 1 and the governor's stay-home order, and the numbers of COVID cases continue to climb, and so are the number of hospitalizations. Guam Memorial Hospital Administrator Lillian Posada says every day is a balancing act to meet the demand of COVID and non-COVID patients in desperate need of medical care.
Well, as of this morning at 6 o'clock, we have 23 in the house.
4 of those COVID patients are in full to capacity Care Unit 2, or the ICU COVID unit. 17 are now in the recently opened Care Unit 4, and of this morning, 2 COVID patients were taking up the emergency room's only 2 isolation rooms.
It's a serious, very serious.
According to Guam Memorial Hospital Administrator Lillian Posadas, more and more COVID patients that are in need of care are younger. Over the weekend, a 7-year-old was seen at GMH, and according to Public Health Situation Report issued Monday, since Friday there have been 14 new positive cases in the age group between 0 and 9 years old, 17 new cases in 10 to 19-year-olds, 20 to 29-year-olds, 33 cases, and 30 to 39-year-olds, 28 new cases.
So, the mindset of people that, it only attacks the elderly with the comorbidities, that's no longer the case. That's no longer true. This virus attacks any human host, regardless of the age, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your class status, or even if you're a professional.
Running parallel to the rising COVID cases is a rising need for space and, more importantly, staff. Posada saying she's reached out to GDOE to see if they can tap into their pool of school nurses, meeting with the surgeon cell for guidance, and engaging in talks with the private clinic to see if they can get assistance from their nurses. Posada says on Monday she officially made the ask to the feds.
We submitted a request to the federal government on the medical assignment, to see if we can get some critical care nurses and critical care doctors deployed to Guam. So we're constantly addressing and working these, options for Guam, for Guam's healthcare system.
Right. While the situation is serious and fluid at the hospital, if the positive cases continue spiking, Posada says the extension of PCOR 1 might be needed.
I agree if it does get extended, because look at the numbers. the numbers continue to increase. And our situation here at the hospital, we continue to be challenged with trying to accommodate everybody, and particularly if they are needing critical intensive care unit level of care. And so, it would make sense, and I think it would be prudent, just again for the health and safety of our community, so that we can get people to that level where they can return to work and be productive in wherever that they work. But we just really need, and the students, the school children can go back to school. But we may need to extend it, and I support if it does.
Lieutenant Governor of Guam, Josh Tenorio, says his battle with the coronavirus has been rough. On our interactive show, The Link, he describes the past couple of weeks as scary and grueling.
The lieutenant governor says he went 9 straight days with a fever.
There was one day that I thought maybe I might have to go to the hospital, but continuing to rest and just drinking water and continuing to just try and fight it, I was able to move past that.
Tenorio, who tested positive almost 2 weeks ago, has been in isolation with his partner, also a COVID positive.
There are days where he had it, in fact, a few days ago, much worse than I.
The lieutenant governor telling KUAM's The Link he's going on 5 days now without a fever.
I'm almost back to normal, but I'm not there yet.
What he says has helped is the support from friends and family who've dropped off supplies outside his door. It's a gesture he encourages the community to extend to others infected with the coronavirus.
For people that are not sick and can offer some help, I would totally encourage, there's little things, the water, the juice, really the water. Sometimes you don't have an appetite, but just, having people come call over and check on you to make sure that if there's anything you need and to drop it, it really does play a big difference.
The most terrifying part, though, for the lieutenant governor, the possibility he could have infected his mother.
I had seen her maybe 3 days before I tested positive, and kept checking, and unfortunately my sister has it. She's segregated in isolation from my mom and her 2 kids. They're our house in Sinanya they're able to separate it. But that's the biggest fear is, you have a mom that for sure shouldn't have this. And then now, she's taking care of, my young nephews, making sure they don't have it. It's very, very scary.
And it's all the more reason he hopes the community will take this seriously and follow the governor's stay-home order.
If we're going to be able to fight this and respond to people's healthcare needs, then this sacrifice is definitely something we need to take together. And it's not going to be forever. We just continue to monitor the situation and do things to get us into a better outcome than where we have been in the last few weeks, especially.
For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.
You can watch the entire interview with the Lieutenant Governor describing his battle against COVID on our YouTube channel. In spite of the governor's stay-at-home order, a peaceful protest was held in Tumon by small business owners taking a stand against what they believe have been attacks on their constitutional rights. Tom Pinehoff has worked in the hospitality industry for 22 years and is the owner of local bars, the Shady Lady and Live House. He is participating in the peaceful protest because, like other small businesses, they're struggling to survive. He says although many have received federal assistance and loans, local leaders haven't done anything to help, and yet they're continuing to collect the paycheck.
Will the economy be affected more? Well, if we keep closing down, and like I said, every business has a daily cost attached, a price tag attached, you will hurt the island furthermore by not reopening. And again, with a 2-week closed lockdown, or even if it may end up being 2 months of a lockdown, again, the virus will not go away. So. Look, Chris, Sabrina, I personally, I tell you one thing, I do not mind staying at home for the next 2 years, but someone needs to pay the bills. As simple as that.
Peinhoff is part of a group that founded the Guam Business Owner Coalition and encourages people to learn more about the group by visiting their website.
What we are trying to do is make as many small businesses survive on Guam. Right. So once this virus is over and we can kind of go back into normal, we have many survivors economically and financially.
Visit guboc.org for more information. Some financial help is available for those who were re-furloughed or are newly unemployed as a result of the current shutdown. The Labor Department says PUA benefits are still available and claimants can submit applications online.
Director David De La Sola says they scrambled to try and make it easier for previous claimants, but the computer programmers weren't able to make the changes just yet.
Basically, if you were like last time you worked was in beginning of July, then when you log back in, you're going to have to finish those weeks from where you last left off and just basically fill them out until you get to this week that just passed. And then you would put in that for that week that you were affected.
And if you're newly furloughed and a first-time claimant?
You would just go in and submit a claim just like everybody else has.
The Labor Department has closed shop, though, because of the shutdown order, but staff are still working on problem claims and calling on those claimants. Otherwise,
you can email the PUA hotline. That would help. Or you just go ahead and submit your claims and on the website, and that's working fine.
First-time filers will need valid identification and proof of a viable job, such as check stubs.
Basically, you want to prove who you are, what you did, and when you were affected.
Meanwhile, he says, some $37 million in unemployment payments hit the banks today for those who filed on July 14th. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Thanks, Nestor. The Guam Police Department has enforcement on lockdown, and they have backup. According to GPD spokesperson Sergeant Paul Tapao, since the introduction of the governor's shelter-in-place executive order, a task force was created that included multiple law enforcement agencies, the Department of Agriculture, Parks and Recs, the Guam International Airport Authority, police, and GPD. The task force is actively patrolling public parks and beaches that are restricted under the order.
Staying home is the only way in which we can actually properly mitigate and stop the spread, and we were, listening to the experts, not just, here on the island, but stateside. You're going to see that uptick, and the best way to do it is just pretty much stopping the movement of the carriers, which are the people and the community members. So, the importance of the executive order in our role with the Guam Police Department, it's critical. It's critical that people understand their respective roles and adhering to the executive orders.
Tapao says that all officers have the authority to counsel individuals who are in violation, and as of today, they have counseled over 100 violators. Should this lead to an arrest or citation, then violators are subject to prosecution for criminal trespass. Stay tuned. We've got more news coming up, the latest from the Republican National Convention. Stay tuned.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
While we've all been through a lot over the years,
typhoons, earthquakes, and now COVID-19,
we've been able to get through these together.
For more than 80 years,
Calvo's Insurance has been protecting your homes, your businesses,
and the health of your family.
We are here today, and we'll be here tomorrow.
There are better days ahead. Tomorrow's a new day filled with hope and choices.
The possibilities of what we can achieve together are limitless.
Let's continue to work together to ensure a brighter tomorrow for all of us.
Our biggest SUV, the Palisade, and our smallest SUV, the Venue. Remember, it's not the size of the dog in your adventure, but the size of the adventure in your dog. Big or small, it's better in a Hyundai SUV.
KUAM News, winner of the 2020 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Social Media.
Welcome back. A pair of hiking incidents involving a group of military service members is being investigated by individual commands. Navy Lieutenant Commander Rick Moore says that Joint Region Marianas is aware of the reports of service members hiking amid PCOR 1 in Guam, adding, quote, if a service member is suspected of violating HPCON C, PCOR 1 or other local health protection orders, whether on or off base, we will investigate. As reported on Sunday evening, GFD's 911 center received a call that a man had gotten lost in the Fena Reservoir area. GFD rescue units were able to locate the hiker. Then early Monday morning, a call came in for another lost group member around the Mount Lamlam area. That hiker was found along the road by motorists. According to Moore, service members determined to be in violation of these directives may be held accountable under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The Republican National Convention got underway today in North Carolina, where delegations from across the country officially nominated President Donald Trump. Representing Guam was National Committeeman Juan Carlos Benitez.
Madam Secretary, a warm half a day from the U.S. territory of Guam, homeland of the Chamorro people, Tanoy Manchamorro, where all are welcome regardless of your race, creed, and national origin. We would like to express our sincere gratitude, Sijus Maase, to President Donald Trump for making sure that the people of Guam are treated as equal members of our great nation, especially with the federal relief that has been provided to the territory during this global pandemic. Sujus Masi, President Trump, in providing closure to the Chamorro people that suffered horrible atrocities during the 3 years Japanese occupation of our island during World War II. We raise our voices and pray to Our Lady of Camelin, Santa Maria Camelin, the patron saint of our island, to bless President Donald Trump and bless President Mike Pence in this upcoming election. Madam Secretary, the territory of Guam is proud to cast its 9 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
Benitez was joined by Guam GOP Committee Woman Margaret Metcalf and Shelley Gibson. We also spoke with Guam GOP Chairperson Tony Atta, who stayed back on island.
It's really an exciting time for, not just there in the mainland, but also here on Guam. President Trump has really done so much for our people on our island, and especially during these times of uncertainty, President Trump has always been there for us and will continue to be there for us.
The encore for the convention is 9 p.m. on KUAM TV8. Soon, the Republican National Convention will kick off its first night under the theme Land of Promise. Earlier, a group of 6 delegates from each U.S. state and territory came together in Charlotte to formally nominate the president and Vice President Pence. Here's more from today's activity from Natalie Brand.
This week, it's the Republicans' turn to present their case to the American people.
The only way they can take this election away from us is if this is a rigged election. We're going to win this election.
Our most cherished ideals of freedom and free markets are on the ballot.
Earlier, the president and vice president both traveled to Charlotte, North Carolina, where a limited number of delegates from each state gathered in person to officially cast their ballots to re-nominate them for the party's ticket for the 2020 election.
Donald J. Trump, having received a majority of these votes entitled to be cast at the convention, has been unanimously elected as the Republican Party nominee.
Meanwhile, the key speakers on night 1 include the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott, and St. Louis couple Mark and Patricia McCloskey, who went viral after pointing guns at racial justice protesters.
A senior campaign official says President Trump will make surprise appearances throughout the week, including in tonight's broadcast. There are published reports a former producer on the president's former reality show, The Apprentice, helped plan the convention.
We need a team that's up to the task.
The Biden-Harris campaign has released a new ad slated to air during the Republican convention.
It's not enough just to register our disapproval of the president. We need to elect someone else in his place.
Former Arizona Senator Jeff Flake is one of 27 former lawmakers from the Republican Party who have endorsed the former vice president over President Trump. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
The heavy downpour that soaked the island yesterday provided just the latest reminder. When it rains in Tumon, it floods. Nestor Locanto with more.
Pleasure Island, the epicenter of the tourism industry, the heart of the Tumon Visitors District. But when it rains, it floods. Public Works Deputy Director Jesse Garcia.
So what it is GVB right now has an ongoing contract to clear out the storm drain in that area. So as you know, Nestor, the area down in Tumon, when it's high tide and it rains really hard, the water doesn't flow out into the tide. It gets into a low tide situation where the water is able to clear the ponding basin.
The Guam Visitors Bureau, with bond funding from the Guam Economic Development Authority, has been trying for years to figure out how to mitigate the flooding. Most recently, DPW has stepped in to help clear out debris accumulating in the storm drains.
Because of the silt not being able to flow into the ponding basin to clear when it's full, right? So the silt builds up inside the box. So the box is really filled up with a lot of silt. So the key there is to get it have some kind of a maintenance to have it jetted out or pumped out.
But the permanent solution, says Garcia, will cost a lot of money. They can build a much bigger ponding basin or a pumping system that can expel the overflow much further away.
It's all about planning and stuff, but that's the way it was for years. So trying to correct the problem now, we would have to take a lot of engineering to figure out how to get that water out.
Or maybe you just can't out-engineer Mother Nature. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Locanto.
With the island on lockdown, more and more people are using their tablets, their iPads, and firing up their computers. Could this be harmful to your eyes? Dr. Peter Lombard explains after the break.
Your community calendar is brought to you by Taco Bell. Whether it's your first meal or your fourth meal, we've got you covered. Taco Bell, live Mas.
With Grand Marnier,